Hey guys, welcome back to the Clarity Room podcast. So, for today's episode, it is episode 6, which is literally just crazy. Every single time I start an episode, I can't believe that it is yet another one. I have launched this podcast over a month ago now, which is absolutely insane. And I really hope you guys have enjoyed the last episode that I did. It was a surprise collab with my partner and also who is the founder and creator of the brand and clothing business Eternal Order. So a lot of my personality did show up on there, which I love because I want to be able to bring my raw and authentic self even more as each episode comes. So, anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed that amazing surprise. But for today's episode, I was actually very torn on like what to do in terms of like the topic because I had planned the topic and the notes to a T. Keep in mind, I just wasn't very aligned with what I wanted to talk about today. So I did change it and it got me researching on more episode ideas that I wanted to do for this podcast, but none of them aligned with what I wanted to talk about today. So I brought it back to the roots of this podcast and what made me start this side project in the first place. So, anyways, that was a long introduction. Let's get started. Welcome to the Clarity Room podcast, the space for real talk, mindset shifts, and digital business growth. I'm your host, Elaine Clare, an entrepreneur and a digital mentor, and I'm currently navigating the ups and downs of being in my 20s. I'm also currently building an online business and trying to build my dream life on my own terms. This is a safe space to build clarity in your life, grow your confidence, and take action towards your dreams. And hey, it's not always formal and serious. You'll also find some fun and lighthearted episodes along the way. So let's dive in. So, welcome to episode 6 of the Clarity Room podcast. So, like I said earlier, for this episode, I wanted to bring it back to the roots of when I first launched this podcast. So, back in September for my 23rd birthday, I actually had planned to go up to Auckland and have a special getaway just with me and my partner, but also see my best friend and other friends there as well. And I wanted to do something for myself and not just to have growth within my business, but to have growth within personal and mindset as well. So, this is why I attended the biggest women in business event here in New Zealand. And this episode is basically the lessons that I learned while I was at that event. It was definitely life changing and it was my first time attending. So I'm very proud of myself for getting outside of my comfort zone. It was also actually in my vision board. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see behind me is actually my vision board, and on it is a bunch of networking and business events. So I attended like a massive business convention for my online business in June that had over 7,000 people, but that's for another episode. But for this Women in Business event, there was over 800 women in the room, and they were from all different types of businesses. They weren't just traditional business owners, but some of them also had an online business and e-commerce, or they were selling, something. But since everyone was from different fields, it actually gave me so many different point of views. So, like I said in this episode, it is basically just a summary of what I learned at the event. I wanted to be in a room filled with like-minded entrepreneurs, and obviously this Women in Business event was going to give me that. And I think the biggest part for me is the fact that this event actually pushed me to start this podcast, and it is basically something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I even had this document and Notion board out, and I had planned the podcast like name ideas and what I wanted it to be called for almost a year before I started this podcast. I also wanted to connect with like-minded women at this event, so that is one of the main reasons why I went. But shout out to my business partner and business bestie Barsha, who also supports me on my podcast, for coming to the event with me, because me and her wanted to meet like-minded people here and also connect with other people our age and from other fields of business and other ages, so we can have more of a mindset shift and have growth within ourselves and our businesses. One of the girls that I actually shared a table with actually had a podcast as well, and when I was speaking to her, she just made it seem so easy to start a podcast and to share it with people, especially strangers that you might not even know as well, because I feel like when people that we know in real life are like getting to know the things that we want to do for ourselves. Like we tell them we want to start a business, we tell them we want to start a podcast. This is when it kind of gets awkward because you know who they are and you know how they are. And I feel like sometimes you already know what they're going to say and how they're going to react. So most of the time when you tell strangers that you've met for the first time, it's so much easier to say what you do without over explaining yourself, because it is literally their first fact or their first impression of you. She basically showed me that it was so much easier to take the leap to do something for yourself, like start a podcast. And I thought to myself, like, if she could do it, then why can't I? And like I said, there was so many different types of business owners in this event. And I feel like the fact that I shared a table with someone who had a podcast, it was definitely a sign that I needed to get started. I'm going to basically be talking about my key takeaways and what I learned from this event, but obviously this is just from my personal experience from going to this event, so just take it with a grain of salt. And yeah, this is basically the disclaimer of the episode. The biggest thing for me that was so eye-opening and gave me clarity to basically start this podcast was the advice to feel the fear anyways, because most of the time a lot of us are fearing to get outside of our comfort zone to do something new, but this fear never really goes away. You kind of just have to go with it and go with the flow. And our mind and body is actually wired to keep us safe, and it means that we tend to fear everything that is outside of our comfort zone and everything that we don't know. So let's say if you want to start something new, this is something out of your routine, something out of the ordinary that you normally do. So obviously your mind and your body is going to want to protect you, and it's going to want to keep you safe, which is your comfort zone. But of course, we know that when you are in your comfort zone, you are not growing. So when you feel uncomfortable, just remember that you are growing, which is literally the best part. The first section that I wanted to talk about in this episode is basically all about feeling the fear. Everyone feels fear, like I said, and we just need to take action even if we have fear. Another advice that I learned at this event was basically if you're young, you are more likely to be fearless, and being young is actually an advantage. So obviously this podcast is focused on having clarity and navigating your life throughout your 20s, since I am in my early 20s. Most of the business owners that did speak at the event started their businesses in their 20s and even late 20s. So their advice was take risks while you're being fearless, because you really don't need to wait for the perfect moment. Most of the time, there is never going to be a perfect moment. And like I said, I put off the idea of starting a podcast for literally 2 years, which is absolutely crazy. So that's how you know there is never going to be a perfect moment. I got this camera a year ago and it came with a mic, and you would have thought that I would have started this podcast then, but I didn't, because I wanted everything to be perfect. Along the lines of fear, one of the things that I've learned throughout this whole year was from Rob Dial. So I listened to a lot of his podcast episodes, and he basically focuses on like psychology and mindset. And basically there are differences between real fears and fake fears. So basically your mind and body is wired to keep you safe, right? But most of the time we think that all of the fears we have are real fears. So for example, the fear of people judging you isn't a real fear. because it's not like it will actually hurt you physically. Versus like a real fear or a real danger, because back when we were cavemen, we were actually taught to, have survival instincts. And this is why we tend to not get outside of our comfort zone, because we fear of what will happen. But obviously, in this day and age, there's so many things that will not give us this physical danger, but in our mind, we think it will. So we really just have to remind ourselves what are the real dangers and what are the fake dangers that we have around us. The second section of this episode that I wanted to talk about was basically the relationships that you have. So this doesn't just relate to having clients with like a traditional business. Like when you sell something, you obviously want your client to be happy. So you have to be able to listen to them and get feedback to improve your brand, your clothing, and your business. But for me, it is building these special connections and relationships with the people that I work with. This also means you really need to value the relationships around you, including any mentors that you have, people that you look up to, coaches in your business or your field, and even colleagues and business partners that you may have. Obviously, you will attract like-minded people, and these are the type of people that you will have around as your network. So you really have to be careful and you have to choose wisely. I speak a lot about it in my podcast, but it is so hard to find people who see your vision and who see where you're trying to go, but also someone who's trying to build something for themselves as well. I get everyone has their own thing, their own side hustle, their own hobbies, but at the end of the day, I want to be able to have friends who are building their own business, are building their own brands, and eventually I will find that circle. And going to events like this will definitely help me get there faster. At the same time, having the right circle really helps build the values and also the character and the person that you want to be, because you can share with them the lessons and challenges that you have had, or in my case, a business and a podcast. You can share with them the hiccups and challenges and lessons that you have had along the way, and you guys can both bond on this together. Being transparent and honest is always very important, whether this is in a friendship or also in a formal relationship like with your business partners, but obviously it really depends on the situation. The third section I wanted to talk about today was basically all about strategy and focus. If you're starting something for yourself, like a business or a podcast, you really have to be clear to yourself about what your objective is. You have to know who your audience is and what your business is for and the true message of it. This goes along with your branding, and once you figure this out, you have to focus on it in order to improve it. Obviously, when we start, we're not going to know everything, and that is the best part, because a lot of the things come with the lessons and the things that you learn along the way throughout your journey. Like a cheesy quote says, it is not about the destination, but it's actually about the journey along the way. Don't play by someone else's playbook. It is your business, your brand, and your perspective for a reason. So yes, you can take inspiration and you can take advice from other people, but at the same time, like, you really have to listen to yourself and listen to what it is that you want to do with your business. At the end of the day, authenticity always wins. Always focus on you and what you're trying to do instead of watching other people and comparing yourself. Because I definitely went through the cycle and I just basically became obsessed with planning and scheduling and all the things, but the action was not happening. And that is one of the main reasons why I never started this podcast until like a month ago. You really have to create more than you consume, and this also includes like social media and even the content on there. Like I've mentioned in my previous episodes, I'm definitely a perfectionist. So most of the time I am just trying to make everything perfect, and that is the reason why I don't take action. But at the end of the day, you can always improve, whether it is your content or your mindset or just being you in general. You can always improve. I look back on a lot of things that I started, and like the live chat episodes that I used to do on my business page, I would cringe at the way that I talk, but I know that even like 2 years from now, I will cringe at the way I talk now. So You really just have to keep going, and with time, you will improve. In section 4, I want to talk about business habits and growth. Obviously, we all know the quote that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard enough. And I've been able to relate to this quote for a really long time because I did go through 3 years of university to do a bachelor's degree in science. And let me tell you guys, I struggled to get through science in high school and even in university. So you would think that I would not be someone to pursue a degree like that, but let me tell you, I persevered through that. And the only thing that kept me going was definitely my hard work and not any smartness that I was given. Let me tell you guys, the consistency and persistence that I had to get through that degree was absolutely crazy. So you heard it from here first. C's get degrees. So it doesn't matter how much talent or how much smartness or intelligence that you have if you don't have a good work ethic. Another advice that I learned from this business event was if you work with other people or you have a team in your business, you really have to look at what are your strengths and what are other people's strengths as well. Obviously, there's going to be a time where you can't do everything yourself and you really have to delegate things. I run my online business by myself, but I do collab with like my mum's team all the time in my online business. She is my mentor and we basically have a global team that we work with. And you really have to let others shine in other areas as well and not just focus on the things that you can do all at the same time. The biggest thing for me when I started my online business was that I really needed to shift my mindset from an employee to entrepreneur because obviously when you're an employee, you think that you are trading time for money and you have this instant gratification because you're literally getting paid by the hour. But when you're a business owner, you don't know when your next paycheck is going to come in. So you may show up every single day and you may not see the results straight away. And this is when delayed gratification kicks in. You really need to shift your mindset from an employee to an entrepreneur, so that you're able to grow in your business. You have to have the mentality of an entrepreneur and have a business that can work for you. And this relates to like things like my podcast as well. When I started my online business or when I started my podcast, I didn't have the perfect mindset, but this is when you can grow as a person as well. When you have a dream and you start small, this is when the reps start and you can actually have momentum from this. So you really just have to show up every single day or try and put the 100% that you have every single day, and eventually it will build up. And for section 5, which is the last section for this episode, I basically just wanted to talk about life lessons and gratitude. Look at challenges as opportunities and failures as lessons because we really have to be grateful for them. I definitely don't regret anything and try not to look at the things that I've done in the past, whether this is in business, whether this is in life and friendships and even relationships that have gone wrong. But at the end of the day, you are the person that you are today because of the things that have happened. So I wouldn't change anything that have happened in the past because I am who I am because of the things that happened. Anytime somebody asks me, do you regret anything or would you change anything from the past? I always say no, and I always tell them that exact reason why. You really shouldn't dwell on the past and anything that you could have done better, but you can take this and move forward with it in the future. And next time the universe or God gives you something similar or a similar situation, then you definitely know how to improve and how to be better. This also takes a lot of self accountability, which is something that I've also mentioned in my past episodes. And it really takes some guts to really take accountability for yourself. Linking it back to starting something for yourself, it's definitely okay to feel like quitting. Not everybody feels 100% motivated every single day when they're trying to build something for themselves. Guys, I literally I literally just filmed a whole section and the mic was off. I don't know if I'm going to redo that now because I was actually on a roll. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm just going to keep going and I'll see what I'll do. Anyways, you really have to reconnect with your purpose and remind yourself why you started in the first place, because sometimes you really lose track on why you wanted to do this very thing at the start. Always remind yourself that also time is gonna go by anyway, so you might as well do what you love and keep going. In terms of like financial discipline, an advice that I learned from this is also don't live beyond your means, even in business. So obviously you have to change your mindset to the fact that you're investing into something for yourself and investing in something for your future. But at the same time, you really have to live beyond your means as well. And lastly, having this human connection is actually very critical and important, especially in like the online business industry that I am in, because the biggest thing is the people in the business. Obviously, you want to be able to connect with people, you want to be able to understand them, understand what they need, understand what they want, and how they want to be able to build something for themselves. So, social media is great and all, and having AI to leverage your business is also an amazing resource. But at the same time, having this one on one human connection is actually really vital and important. And that is why I love, doing the live chat episodes that I do on my online business, but also doing collabs with people on the podcast. So, hopefully, in the future, I have more collabs and interviews for you guys. But yes, clarity doesn't always show up before taking action. It definitely comes after you've started and have the ball rolling. And at the same time, you're not going to know everything right at the start and right off the bat, because this comes with the lessons and challenges that you learn along the way. And like I said, it's not about the destination, but it's definitely about the journey. So don't compare yourself to someone else's chapter 10 when you have literally just started at chapter 1. One of the main reasons why I wanted to meet new like minded people who have the same vision and values as me is because the people that know you in real life and the people that you keep around you are definitely the ones who's going to be scared for you. This is because they only want to protect you and like keep you safe, and they also don't want to see you get disappointed if you do fail or if something doesn't go your way. And in saying this, I've always talked about the real one seeing your vision, but there is people out there that will truly find you and that will see your authentic self and where you want to go. So even if you have your friends judging you and your closest friends are judging you and your family's talking about you and saying, who does she think she is? What is she doing? All the things, you really just have to look at them as noise, and these are just people in the background, because you just need to focus on what you want to do and where you want to go. And of course, how to improve what you are doing. At the end of the day, this is your life. And if you're trying to build something for yourself, they're definitely not going to be the one to give you your dream life and your dream goals and the things you want to achieve. I always have to remind myself this, because I feel like I still have that people pleaser mindset. And like I said, I've done an episode on this and I absolutely loved it. I feel like I just need to ramble about it for the next hour or so. But being a people pleaser is so, so important, because it takes having you to protect your energy and protecting your peace in order to choose yourself and not other people. I also forgot to mention that walking in a room full of entrepreneurs and full of business owners really takes some mindset shift, because if you talked to me 2 years ago about going to an event like this, I definitely would have turned down the opportunity and I definitely would not have seen the value in it. Another thing that I wanted to mention was like, also don't compare yourself to other people's journeys, because you might be comparing yourself to someone who has like years and years of experience, like someone who just started a podcast. Like, I have a very long journey to go and I have a lot to learn. And also, like someone who started their business, online business at 21, I definitely shouldn't compare myself to someone who's been in the space and been in the industry for more than 5 years or even 10 years, because they have learnt so much and they have had so much experience already. So I just need to focus on my own journey and focus on my own business to try and improve it. And this relates back to creating more than you consume, because when you focus on the content or the podcast episodes that you are creating, you're definitely less likely to compare yourself with other people. There's no harm in getting inspiration through other creators as well. I definitely get inspired from listening and watching other podcasts and content creators out there, and seeing how I can adapt it to my own branding and my own podcast as well. So if you are listening to this, let me ask you one thing. What is something that you can do today that you can work towards your goal? And what fear is stopping you from doing that? If this episode inspired you, make sure you share it with someone who would love to hear this. And that is basically everything that I wanted to talk about today. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you on my next podcast episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. This is the Clarity Room podcast, and I'm your host, Aline Claire. If you want to watch the full video of these episodes, make sure to follow my YouTube channel, The Clarity Room Podcast. And if you want to learn a little bit more about my online business and how you can start your own side hustle using social media, then my socials will be in the show notes below. Connect with me if you want to learn more. Otherwise, I will see you guys in my next episode. Bye guys, have a good day. And remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. You really have to reconnect with your purpose and remind yourself, oh my goodness, my mic wasn't even on the whole time. I can't believe that I filmed the whole section with my mic off. That's crazy. Oh my goodness.